Welcome back, everybody, to Empyrion Galactic Survival. This is the Getting Started tutorial series, and I am an old guy gaming. We are back in the creative world here, and the purpose of this episode is to go through some of the tools that you have at your disposal for working with building, and go through a basic block tutorial. So we're going to do this in creative mode rather than survival mode, so we have all the tools available at our disposal. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to press escape, and we're going to go into the debug menu, and we're going to stop time. So that way we have full sunlight for this whole thing. The sun is just a little past noon in the sky anyway, so that should work out good. All right, so let's get started. Let's press G to go into God mode so we can fly around. And I'm going to press H to go into the creative menu. And I think what we'll do is we're going to make a pad, and so let's make the pad out of armored concrete. And I'm going to want a multi-tool and a few charges for that. And I'm going to want a texture tool. And let's just start with that. Okay, so we're going to grab this block here, and we're going to look at the creative base of the library here. We're going to go into the In menu, In as in Nancy, and we're going to select this option, Connect to Planetary Creative Library. And what that does is it just makes this block a part of this base, so we don't actually have to put a core down. Okay, let's just go out here so we have plenty of room to place this block. Now notice that right here it's buried in the ground, so if I press the page up key, I can lift it up off the ground so it's no longer buried in the ground. Let's put our symmetry plane on, press the N key as in Nancy. We'll do our YZ plane. Oh wait, sorry, I got the wrong thing. Symmetry plane, there we go. Move it over so it's right in the center. And then we'll just, kind of build out our pad here. Not too terribly concerned about the exact block count. We just need a big flat place to work, basically. Holding down the control key and the left mouse button and dragging out a plane of blocks. Oh shit, that's not what I wanted to do. We're going to, we accidentally placed a block where we didn't want to, so we're going to touch it. With the current block, we're going to hold down Shift, and we're going to right-click to delete that block. All right, now we're going to do a control drag to get the plane of blocks out. There's something down there. It's a corn dog. Okay, so, whoa, that was a little too far. Put that there. What's down there? Oh, corn dog down there too. And then we've got a tree down here. Get that out of there. That did remove it, right? Yeah. Okay, that should work for what we need to do today. Let's turn the symmetry plane off. Okay, we're going to go into here, and I'm going to grab some combat steel blocks because they will contrast well. So we can see what's going on. Okay, so let's see. The block system in this game is fairly complex. And unless you are a person who is really good with geometry and angles and that sort of thing, it takes a little bit of time, I guess I should say, to start to get used to it. So what I'm going to do in this episode is I'm going to just kind of introduce you to the basics. But there's a couple of videos that I'm also going to have you watch. One of them is from Red Baron, and I'll put the link to that video in the description of this video. And the other ones, there's actually a couple of different ones that Jay Randall, the Jeff Randall, has made that are pretty good as well. And you know, both of those guys are going to go into a little bit more detail than I'm planning to do. And so that's why I'm going to direct you to them to really, you know, go through and learn the block detail. But what I'm going to do in this episode is I'm going to just introduce you to the very basics, so at least you have enough information to kind of have a clue about what's going on, essentially. Okay? So let me think. Okay, so here's what we're going to do first. Before we actually get into the blocks themselves in any detail, we're going to take a look at the selection tool that the game has and how to use it, because it's going to really come in handy for you if you can learn how to use this tool. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and make ourselves like a 3x3 square. Then what we're going to do is we're going to make ourselves a triangle. So I'm going to right click and select the 45-degree block here. And then for the top of this, let's just go ahead and select the pyramid block, which I believe is... Where's the pyramid block? There it is. We'll just put that on top for now. What I probably should have done is made that go out wider. Yeah, you know what? What the hell? Let's do it. So I'm going to, shift right click to delete those. And because the problem is there isn't a block that actually fits evenly on there. So we need to make this wider in order for it to, for it to even out. Go here. Okay, so we got a triangle, and now let's also make a circle here. Or I guess it'll end up being an oval. The round edge block. Press the delete key to change my axis, and then the end key to rotate. And yeah, I could also have put the symmetry plane on for this, but this is just going to be a real quick thing that we're building here. So, okay. So we've basically got a square, a triangle, and a circle-ish. We'll call it an oval. Okay. So now here's what we're going to do. We're going to press the N key. Let me actually get rid of this stuff. I don't really need it right now. Okay, we're going to press N as in Nancy, and we're going to be on the building tab here. Okay, so we have already worked a few times with the symmetry plane, so you guys understand how that works. Basically, it just mirrors what you're going to build. But what we haven't really looked at yet is the selection tool that the game has. So as you can imagine, what the selection tool does is it allows you to select an area of blocks and then do things like, you know, cut and paste those blocks or delete those blocks and that sort of thing, or rotate them and so on and so forth. The first thing to know is that the symmetry plane and the selection tool are completely mutually exclusive to one another. You cannot use them at the same time, okay? So keep that in mind, because once I show you how the selection tool works, you might think, oh, that's really cool. I can build one portion of my ship and then simply copy and paste it, and I'm good to go. That's true, but you can't copy and paste a mirrored version of it. So if you are going to mirror your ship, which you are because you want both sides to be the same, this isn't going to work for that purpose. But if what you're copying and pasting is going to be the exact same dimensions, then this is your baby, because this is going to work quite well for that purpose. Okay, so just really important to keep that in mind. So what we're going to do first is we're going to just do this at the most basic level, and then I'll show you a couple more advanced things. All right, so what we're going to do is press the N key to bring up our tool. Make sure we're on selection. And we have a couple of different ways that we can select the block. We can either use the move selection, or we can use the scale selection. They're both, you know, it doesn't matter which one you start with because you can easily switch them out. The third one's the rotate part. That you can't use yet. You can only use it when you copy something and paste it. So basically the idea is I copy this block, I go to paste it somewhere else, and in the process of pasting, I can also rotate it. Okay, so it doesn't matter what we start with. I usually like to start with the scale option. So I click that button, and then I click on the object that I want to select, and it places this little selection box down. Okay, so the selection box has a bunch of different little what you might call handles on it. So what do they do? The center one, if I click on it, will switch between the modes. So this is selection mode, or this is scale mode rather. It allows me to enlarge the selection, and this is move mode. It allows me to move the selection. So each time I click on that, it'll scale between those two. If I'm also ready to paste something, then the third mode would of course be the rotate. That would also become available to us, but it's not available to us at the moment because we haven't copied and pasted anything yet. All right, so the arrows then are used to actually move the selection. So the inner arrow will move the selection by one block. Okay, either up or down as needed. The outer two arrows you can click and hold the mouse button down on, and then you can drag the selection at a much faster pace than you could with the inner arrow, which will only do it one block at a time each time you click on it, right? The same exact principle works for scale. So with scale, I can change the size of the selection one block at a time with the inner, or if I grab the outer handles, then I can click and drag it out. And in this case, I'm going to be able to drag it out very quickly and select a very large area. And that's going to be useful if you have a really large set of blocks, collection of blocks, that you might want to select. Okay, so once I have something selected, then I can copy it with this button, or I can cut it with this button. Obviously, if I cut it, it's going to remove it from where it currently is, and then I will paste it in another location. If I copy it, I'll keep the original block where it is, and I'll create a copy of that, a duplicate, and place the duplicate somewhere else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the copy button, and that creates a copy of any of the blocks that are inside of the selection itself. In this case, the little square that we created. Okay? Now, there's a couple things you can do at this point. You can either paste the copy in the same place and then move it, or you can select a different location to paste the object. Either way works. It just kind of depends upon what your workflow is, what you're trying to do. The thing to understand about pasting something is that you have to paste twice. The first time I hit this button, it will paste a ghost of the selection. The second time I hit the paste button, then it makes it permanent. So the first time makes a ghost so that I can then take that ghost and move it or resize it or rotate it as needed before I commit to it, so to speak. Okay, so if I just hit the paste button, now what I've done is I've created a duplicate of this of the square here, but this duplicate is not permanent. It's kind of in ghost mode, because if I then take it and move it away, see, the original's still there, but now I have the ghost mode. Okay, now I can press in and move my body so that I can then move this and then go back to the end key. And now if I want to, I can move this over. And you have, unfortunately, you have to get out of in to reposition yourself. Each time you got to do that. And so I'm going to drag it in front of the triangle, and then I'm going to butt it up against the triangle like so. And when it is where I want it, I can paste it. But you know what? Let's go ahead and rotate it too. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this back out one block by using the inner handle. We're going to change this to rotate, and now we can turn it like 90 degrees, or we can flip it up or down this way if we wanted to. Okay, so we'll rotate it so that it's that direction, and then we're going to go back to the move option, and we're going to put it so that it's right in the center of our triangle. And when we're done with that, then we're going to hit the paste option. And now we've created a permanent duplicate of our square. You may have noticed that when I copied the square, the selection turned green. Green means you're in ghost mode. It means that you've copied something, but you have not permanently pasted it. When you see blue, that means we've permanently pasted it. So we now have an actual physical new, in this case, set of blocks that are selected, because they're solid now. They're no longer ghost. They're permanent. Okay? Once you have completed your maneuver, what you want to do is you want to click this remove selection button to remove the selection, press in to get out of the menu, and then go along your merry way. Okay? So what happened to that block there? How did that happen? I don't even know. I don't even know. Did I think I put it? Did I think I put it there and I didn't? I don't know. I'll have to go back and look in the video, but actually I'm not going to, because I don't care. The block's there now, and that's all that matters. Okay, so that's how you copy and paste something. Cutting and pasting would work exactly the same way, except for that it would cut or remove the original blocks and then put them wherever you tell them, so that it'll no longer stay there. It's it's just like any cut, copy, and paste that you would do on a computer. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at how to delete blocks using the selection method. So let's get around to here. We're going to press in, and we're going to select our scale selection, but you could also start with the move. It doesn't matter. We're going to click on this block, and then we're going to use the handles to select the area that we want to select. I'm going to press in to get out of the menu, and I'm going to move around to make sure that I only have this set of blocks selected and not my triangle. Once I'm sure that I have the right area selected, I'm going to go ahead and press in, and then I'm going to click the delete. That deletes the block, and then when I'm finished deleting, I hit the remove selection button, press in, and go along my merry way. That is really useful, you guys, that delete option, because especially in creative mode, because you might be working on some different ideas, and so you might have a bunch of blocks that you've laid down to do something, and you decide, nah, that's not what I want to do, I want to scrap it. Well, we know that we can delete or remove individual blocks, with the multi-tool, or we also learned that we can use the shift left click method, right, to remove a block if we want to. But that's fine for single blocks, but what if I have like 3,000 blocks that I just laid down? Well, in that case, you're going to want to select those blocks and delete them to get rid of them. There's also another way that you can delete something in the game. It's called the destroy command, but I'm not really going to get into that now. That's something you would use on, like, if you wanted to destroy an entire base or an entire ship, you could use the destroy command and do the same thing and do it a little more quickly. And something, you know, that you would typically do again in creative mode. So let's say, for example, that I spawned in like 3 different capital vessels from the workshop because I wanted to test them out before I brought them into my survival game. And so I spawn all 3 of those in, I test them out, and I choose one, and then I have the other 2. Well, I could remove those other 2 with the destroy command. I'll show that to you quickly. The way that I would do that is you need to know what the ID is of the base or the item that you want to destroy. So there's a couple ways you can do that. You can press P and go into statistics, and you'll see the ID down here in the lower left-hand corner. Another way you can do it is to go into your console by pressing the tilde key and type in DI for debug info. What that does is it puts a little thingamadoodle at the top of your screen, and then when you look at something, it'll tell you what the ID is. In this case, 1001. 1001 is the ID of this base. Now, if I wanted to destroy it, what I would do is I'd press tilde and I'd type destroy space 1001, and then I would press enter, and it would completely destroy the whole base. It just disappears, poof, it's gone. I'm not actually going to do that because, of course, I don't want to get rid of the base at the moment. I just wanted to show you another way to delete stuff in the game. Okay, let's press DI again to turn it back off. Whoops, what did I do? DI. There we go. Okay, so yeah, selecting is really useful because then you can select something and either copy and paste it or delete it. That's really what it's all about. Okay, so let's take a look at another feature of the selection tool, and that is saving your selections so that you can reuse them later and don't have to reselect them every time you want to use them. So let's press the N key, and what we're going to do is let's start with the square. I showed you how you could click and then you can, use the arrow keys or use the scale keys to adjust your selection. Another thing you can do, though, is you can click and hold the mouse button down, and you can kind of drag the selection, and that's actually a little faster. The thing is, though, is that sometimes the game will get a little bit confused about exactly which direction you want to go, so you still might need to use these little handles to fine-tune that. Okay, so we've selected this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to click this little Save to List option, and we're going to save this as a square. All right, so what that does now is it saves the selection, and it names it square for us. Okay, let's go ahead now and do the same thing here with our triangle. So we're going to press in. I'm going to just click the mouse, and I'm going to drag the selection. See how it thinks I want to go down there. So I need to kind of keep it on the triangle, and that got us close. Okay, so let's now switch to move mode, and we'll just move this over. We'll switch back to scale mode, and we'll click that over one more time so we have the whole thing selected. We'll click Save to List, and we'll call this triangle. All right, and then let's do the same thing with our circle here. Select that, Save to List, and we'll call it circle. Okay. All right, so now we've got these 3 selections saved and named, and they'll stay in the list, so that we can reuse them over and over. This little option that says Show BP Parts, if I turn it off, then it just removes the visual of the selection, but the selections are still there. So you can just turn that off or on depending upon what's appropriate for what you're trying to do. All right, so with selected or pre-selected items that we saved in a list, we have a couple of things that we can do. Let's go ahead and create a cross. So we have another shape that we can work with here. Okay, so we got a cross. Now, the first thing that you can do with a selected list is that you can change it to a different selection if you want to, but keep the same name. I've never done this before. I haven't really had a use for it. but it's something you can do. So I'll show you how to do it, but I can't really give you a really good example of why you would do it. So you'll have to kind of, figure that one out on your own. So basically what I can do is I can take any one of my saved lists, and I can keep the name, but change it to a new selection, okay? So the way that that works is we're going to select our cross here. Looks like we'll have to, yeah, do that. Okay, so we've selected our cross. And the one thing you do need to know is you want to have the item in your list selected first before you select the destination, the place you're going to change it to. Because as soon as I click off of that, then the selection goes away. So what we want to actually do is we want to take our triangle selection, and we're going to replace it with the cross selection is essentially what's going to happen. So the first thing is make sure you have the item in the list selected first, and then select where you want it to go. Okay, so we're going to reselect the cross here, and let's move this up and change to, no, move that in. Whoop, nope, move it in, like so. Okay, now one thing to keep to just pay attention to is that, you know what, I think we need to move this up one too, and then pull it down here. Okay, so the triangle selection is 4 or 5 blocks, 6 blocks wide, however wide it is, whereas this one's only 3 blocks wide, right? So if we click this button here that says replace and click OK, what it did was it took our triangle selection and it changed it to the new selection. Now again, don't think about the shape or the block, think about the selection itself. Essentially what it did was it took this name triangle, which was originally here, and it changed it. It shifted the name to this new selection and now saved it over here. That's what it did. Okay, again, I've never used that myself, so I'm not sure. I can't really give you a real practical example. Sorry about that, but I've never used it, so I'm not really sure how that's supposed to work. Okay, now let's go ahead and just kind of reverse that. So I'm going to go back over to my actual triangle here. I'm going to make sure that it's selected in the list first, and then I'm just going to move it back here. Let's get that over there, that over there. I'm going to click the replace option, and now we put the triangle back to where it was. So that's one thing you can do. You can essentially take the name of the selection and apply it to something new, and in the process take it away from where it was originally. Something that's more useful, I think, though, is simply just using the selections for copy and paste purposes. So let's go with our circle to show this. So we're going to press the N key. We're going to select our circle, and notice, by the way, that whatever I have currently selected in the list is yellow. See that? So even if I close the in menu, I still know that it's actually the circle selection that I have currently selected. Okay, so let's select the circle. Now the other option is this copy to selection. So this is very similar to what we did before, except for that you have to kind of think of this in 3 steps, okay? So the first thing that you do is you click this. And what that does is it activates, we'll say, the selection. Now, it looks like there's kind of an aqua or a turquoise colored box around here, but actually what's going on is that we have blue superimposed over green. So it's the same thing as if we had manually selected this circle. Okay, so that's what this means, copy to selection. Now what I want to do is I want to copy and paste the selection. So the next thing I got to do is I got to click copy. Okay, to make a copy of this, and then what I want to do is I want to click paste. and then take the pasted option and move it somewhere else. Okay? And then we'll actually paste it in, we'll make it permanent. We'll click paste and put it in place. Okay? So the useful, this to me is the more useful reason why you would save selections, so that you can then copy them multiple times and paste them multiple times. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to press the N key, and we're going to delete our selections here. And what I want to do is I want to just get rid of all of this stuff. So we're going to do a little bit of a larger selection. So you want to kind of position yourself in such a way that you can kind of see everything from all angles. We're going to press in, we're going to click here, and then we're going to kind of drag to there. Let's change this to move and drag it out a little further. And then let's go up 4 blocks high to make sure everything's selected. And then we're just going to delete the whole damn thing. Boom. Uh-oh, look what we did. We deleted our pad. No problem. Just click the undo button, and we just know now that we need to move our selection up a little bit. So we're gonna click up, and now we're gonna delete it. There we go. We're good to go. So if you accidentally delete something you didn't mean to, simply just click the undo option, and it will undo it, of course. All right. So now, let's remove the selection. That's one of the most useful things, the most useful uses. Man, my mouth's not working, for using the selection tool, so that you can actually just quickly delete a bunch of stuff that you don't want. Way faster than doing it one block at a time, or even, the destroy command I showed you is also very useful, but that's something you typically would run. We can't use the destroy command here, because if we use it, we're gonna delete everything. Remember, this pad is a part of this base, right? So they all have their uses, of course. Now I'm going to show you one last thing here, and that is the fill option. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create kind of like a little corner thing here, and let's see, let's go 2, 3, 4 blocks high. Now let's go 5 blocks high and maybe over this way. Okay, so we've got 6. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do 5 more this way. Remember, I'm holding down the control key to create planes. So you can also fill in an area using the fill command. The thing about this, though, is that you have to make sure that the block that you're using is the same block. In other words, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the fill command to fill in this cube. It's going to be useful because let's say you want to create a big Borg cube ship or something like that. Well, maybe Borg cube's not a good example, because the Borg cube would be, somewhat hollow inside. You just want to create a solid cube. Well, if I use the symmetry plane option, I can only do a plane at a time. In other words, I can't do 3 planes at the same time. So if that makes sense. So that's what the fill command does for you. So here's how this is going to work. We're going to press the N key, and we're going to here, let's get off of our block. We didn't have to do that, but it just makes it easier, at least for me. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to oh wait, no, I take that back. You do have to have the block selected. Yeah, you do have to have the block selected, because in the process of doing that, you're telling the game, it's this block that I want you to fill this space in with. I forgot about that. Okay, so you do have to have the block selected. So with this block selector, we're going to press in, and then we're going to just like before, we're going to make a selection here. Okay, so let's change this to scale, and there. Let's see. Can we? There we go. Okay, so we got that. We got the whole thing selected. If we wanted to, we could also, bring it. No, we could bring it in one. I don't think this is actually necessary, because if it's covering the existing blocks, it just won't, you know, do anything. But anyway, what we've done is we've selected this entire area. Okay, we want to press in and just make sure that it is this area that's selected and not higher. Unless, of course, it is your intention to actually fill it higher, you know, then you could. So basically what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to in, and we're going to select this option that says fill selection, and look what happens. Boom. It fills the whole thing in for us. Now we just click remove selection, press in, and go along our merry way. So that is how you can very quickly create a solid three-dimensional cube instead of, you know, having to do it, you know, one, man, that thing is squirrely, you know, one plane at a time. The other option is I just have to do it one plane at a time, which, you know, it doesn't take forever to do it that way, but if you have a very large area that you want to fill in, you can use the fill option for that. Okay, guys, so that's pretty much covers the tool. Look at the text down at the bottom. When you are inside the in menu, like I am now, you can't move yourself, but you can still rotate the block. So the right mouse button will change the axis, and the mouse wheel will do the rotating. So that's going to be useful to you too, if you're in the in menu and you want to still, you know, work with rotations and stuff like that. Hi guys, this is future old guy coming to you. It's actually the next day for me. But I completely forgot, as I was editing the video with the selection tool, I completely forgot to show you guys the lock button. So let's take a quick look at that. It's actually kind of useful. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set a block down here. And what the lock button does, it allows me to apply a pre-existing texture to all the blocks that I lay down. That's really what it does. So I don't know, let's select this texture here. And yeah, I guess it's red too. That's fine, it can be red. So what you got to do is you have to select the block first. Okay, so let's do that. The block is selected. Then what you have to do is you have to make sure that you have the block in your inventory that you want to copy the texture to, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then you go here and you click lock. And what that does now is that it makes all of the blocks that texture. So if you have a texture that you know you're going to use a lot of, that the majority of your build is going to be, you can use that little technique, the lock technique, to lock it in. The one thing that I don't think you can change those, you'll notice that it did copy or make the entire blocks that texture, so it doesn't apply it to just a single side, and I don't think you can. And I guess in some ways it wouldn't make sense to apply it to a single side anyway. So if you do use this tool, the lock tool here, it does assume that you're going to that you want the entire block that texture. Okay, and if you hover your cursor over the lock button, it gives you the actual instructions on how to use that right there. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that we covered that button too, because I inadvertently forgot to cover it in yesterday's episode. Okay, back to your regularly scheduled programming. Okay, that pretty much covers the selection tool in the game.